Hi, my name is Joseph, and in 2013, I was a victim of domestic violence. After reporting the abuse to the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, my injuries were photographed and an incident report was filed. Then, the Riverside County District Attorney's Office declined to prosecute my abuser, Jennifer Rochelle Carlson Duke. The deputy who took my report at the time told me that I needed to man up and be a man. But had mine and my abuser's roles been reversed, I would have been arrested immediately and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Over the course of the next 3 weeks, my abusers and I tried to reconcile and repair our relationship. But each time that I would fail to comply with or meet one of her expectations or demands, she would call the sheriff's department and report that I was harassing her and that she just wanted me to leave her alone. The truth of this situation is that more than half of our contact was initiated by her, and 100% of it was mutual and consensual. Most of those demands and expectations of hers were for financial support. She considered it me helping her, but the alternative was she calls the sheriffs on me and lies. I considered it extortion. Here are a few snippets of those conversations.
It was a lie, right? You never intended to. You had to come up with something.
No, nothing's a lie.
You just never intended on helping me, so you had to come up with some way not to help me. Instead of coming down, you're going to come over or whatever, you're trying to come over and you just contact me first.
Okay.
I definitely don't talk and don't see each other ever again. Probably a good thing.
Okay.
All right, I just want to let you know, you don't have to send me money or do anything else.
Okay.
I'm going to figure out my own things.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out what you called for.
I just called to see if you found out anything, if you were all right. That's all. I apologize for calling.
Why do you care? I don't understand. Why do you want it? Why do you want it both ways? Why do you want to shut me out and pretend like I'm a bad guy? Then you don't hear from me. Then you don't hear me, and all of a sudden you want to be nice again.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
And then
I will go now.
say again.
I said I'm sorry, and I'm going to go now. I'm sorry.
I just don't get it with you. I don't understand. You
don't have to do that.
expectations about how evil and bad I am, and that I'm out to get you, and then all your.
Okay, I apologize. I shouldn't have called. Bye.
Just 3 days after that last phone call from her, I was arrested for stalking. And during my arrest, the 3 cell phones that were in my vehicle were seized as evidence by the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. This would be the last time that I would see those phones. And on those phones were more than 30 recorded conversations between myself and my abuser, Jennifer Rochelle Carlson Duke. And there were other recordings between myself and members of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, particularly deputies that were responding to her calls. Though I knew that the Riverside County Sheriff's Department was acting corruptly, I had faith, absolute faith, that once the Riverside County District Attorney's Office reviewed the evidence in this case, that they would see Jennifer Rochelle Carlson Duke wasn't being truthful with law enforcement, and that the deputies that had contact with me had falsified their incident reports by lying about the things that I had said to them in their contact with me. I was confident that my documentation of my interactions with my abuser over the previous 3 weeks would lead to my exoneration and her prosecution. I was wronged. Not only did Deputy District Attorney Casey Sutton ignore the exculpatory evidence proving that I was innocent of these charges, she continued her malicious prosecution of me. Then, she refused to turn over my phones and the recordings on them to my public defender. But what made her refusal to turn those phones and recordings over worse is that my court-appointed attorneys would not file formal motions with the courts to force her to turn those phones over. Over the course of the next 2 years, 18 months to 2 years, under the color of law and as an officer of the court, Casey Sutton misrepresented the facts of this case to the judges. She continually lied about why she couldn't turn over exculpatory evidence and Brady material over to the defense. And she failed to realize that her duty, her sole obligation, was to the truth and not an easy conviction. At every step of the way, the representatives of the legal and judicial system in Riverside County failed me and failed the people of the state of California and the residents of Riverside County who voted them into office. Now, this whole thing, it seems unbelievable, and had I not gone through it for 2 years, I wouldn't believe it myself. It did happen, and it continues to happen every day in Riverside County. But I won't ask you to take my word for it. I'll show you. I'll show you through the court documents, the records of the court, through audio recordings that were legally recorded via telephone and in person. What I'm going to try to do is break this series or this story into a series, a small segment, so it's easier to digest and take in. In the next video, I'll probably show you what took place between myself and my abuser over the course of the 3 weeks. And then I'll break down the highlights of the failings of the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. For the attorneys, I'll be creating separate videos for the District Attorney's Office and then one for the Public Defender's Office and the Conflict Panel. Even though their failings and their corruption often overlap. Lastly, in the final video, I'll give you the names of the judges and show you exactly how each and every one of them broke California state law numerous times in this case, while violating their oaths of office, and that they don't care. One brief example of this corruption happened in 2021, while I was still fighting my abuser's abuse. The District Attorney's Office and the Riverside County Sheriff's Department tried to destroy the evidence that my abuser and members of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department were filing false reports. The District Attorney's Office, with help from the Public Defender's Office, managed to withhold those recordings from the public record and from evidence for 8 years. Sometime between June 21st and June 29th of 2021, Master Investigator Robert Cornett of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department receives a phone call from Deputy District Attorney Lindsay McDowell. DDA McDowell informs Investigator Cornett that my cell phones that were seized as evidence during my arrest contained audio recordings of Riverside County Sheriff's deputies and the victim speaking to me, which contradicted her statements and their reports, and showed that they had falsified those reports by lying about the things that I had said to them. On June 29th, 2021, while I was in courtroom, in custody and in handcuffs for my preliminary hearing in this 8-year-old case, the prosecutor, Lindsay McDowell, was absent from the courtroom, and so was the chief witness, Investigator Cornett. It turns out that Investigator Robert Cornett was at the Lake Elsinore Sheriff's Station destroying those 3 phones that were seized from me, so that those recordings couldn't be used against them. Unfortunately for him, the District Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Department, and my abuser, Jennifer Rochelle Carlson Duke, 90% of those recordings had been preserved, backed up to the cloud, and I'll be sharing them with you during the course of this video series. My goal is to end the corruption in Riverside County Sheriff's Department, the corruption in the District Attorney's Office, the corruption in the Public Defender's Office, and the corruption by Superior Court judges of Riverside County, and to hold those responsible accountable. And I need your help. If you have evidence of corruption within the legal system in Riverside County, please share it. And if you know of someone who has had similar experiences with any of these agencies, please direct them to contact me. The only people that these deputies, lawyers, and judges can do this to are poor, indigent defendants. They know that financially poor defendants cannot afford an attorney, and so the Court of Appeals and ultimately the Supreme Court never hears of this abuse in the lower courts. I cannot afford the $20,000 retainer, and these corrupt officials depend on that. And all it would take was one lawsuit to put an end to this corruption in Riverside County, California. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen and keep an open mind.